I hear a child crying.
There we are. Hey, everybody. Welcome to In the Waterweeds. You're with the Totally Normal Podcast people. This is our Hangoutlander Boozy Book Club hybrid, and my name is Beth, and we're here to talk about Diana Gabaldon's Drums of Autumn. This is our third edition of the second season of In the Waterweeds. We're talking about the fourth book, and that's a lot of information. That's I gave you 6 things to think about. But really, if you're a fastidious That's Normal reader / listener, then you know what's up. We're here to talk about some of our favorite books that we also can't stand. It's going to be a great time. Thank you for joining us. If you're a very, very cautious isn't the right word, noticer of things, you'll notice that I went live by myself about 20 minutes ago for about 17 seconds. So if you were really watching for In the Waterweeds tonight and you saw me do that, you got to look at me before I put my lipstick on, and it was a good time.
A sneak peek.
I mean, there were 3 views on it when I deleted it. So those 3 of you out there, man, you and I are close. You saw me at an unguarded moment that I didn't know I was live on the internet. That doesn't happen very often. So enjoy. I feel like a big camaraderie with all of you, all 3 of you. But anyway, everybody say hello. Amy, I'm going to start with you because everybody knows you and you're here all the time, and say hi.
Hello, I'm Amy, and I'm drinking Babe Rosé with bubbles tonight. And I thought it was kind of like super girl power. Yay, it's fun if you're basic and you like rosé. But then I was reading the bottle, the can, and it's like, you look great. Love your face. Okay, I'm with them. And then it's like, have you lost weight? I'm like, bitch, you don't know my life. Let's be honest. Someone had to create a bubbly rosé that was delicious. And most of all, so us. All right, but then why did you have to bring the weight into it? Maybe I'm super annoyed because I think the whole Weight Watchers rebranding that they announced today is completely bullshit. I just had this conversation with my daughter about there's this entire industry out there that makes you feel bad about your body and wants you to lose weight. But
well, we don't like them.
Yeah. So,
I didn't hear about the rebranding. That's
they're wellness watchers or something now. They're getting rid of the weight part of it.
Oh.
They want you to meditate and also count your calories.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. Okay, Jana, say hi.
I'm Jana. This is my first In the Waterweeds, so I'm really excited, a little bit nervous. I'm also drinking rosé, but I'm drinking the $2 Chuck Trader Joe's version. I call it basic on a budget.
Is it $2 or is it $3 now?
I think it was like $3.99. So it's $3 Chuck, but $2 Chuck.
No, I'm not judging.
It's fun. It's more fun to say. Yeah, and I am that much through the bottle that I started about 45 minutes ago.
Oh, wow. Jana is pre-gaming.
I'm a little toasted.
Yay. That's why we like it. That looks nice. I'm just having a LaCroix. Sorry, guys. I'm not going to.
Are you having pamplemousse?
This is pamplemousse.
Pamplemousse.
This is my second favorite. And I'm having some Dunkin' Donuts. So
what's in there?
I saw those.
There is a chocolate cake and a blueberry. I already ate the pumpkin cake this morning.
Oh, blueberry is my life. Love those donuts.
Me too. So let's get into it, guys. We're here to talk about crazy stuff this was one of the biggest chunks of Outlander book.
Wait.
What?
You told me we could talk about the show first.
I did?
Yes.
Okay.
And the costuming and the design choices.
All right. Okay. So let's tell everybody what's happening, because I don't want anybody that's listening or watching to feel like we didn't fill you in on what's going on. So we're going to put the book aside for a minute. Normally we put the gossip last because we feel like that's why you guys are here. You're listening to us not for our super good Scottish history lessons, because we don't know what's going on, obviously. But you listen to us to get the goods on how the fandom is crazy. So
then we can wait. We can hold it till the end. Now we've teased it.
Well, we have teased it, but I don't mind talking about it first.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I'm really curious. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're gonna mix it up this time. You're gonna get the good stuff first. You're gonna have to stick around for how I feel about Willie and the Privy. Okay.
So I don't follow the costume designer for the show on Twitter because I just don't. But many people that I like do, and so I noticed that there was a theme running through her tweeting last week, basically saying that she's so sorry that she has upset people with the styling of Roger, that if she failed, it was because she still tried her best. And it was very kind of get off the cross lady. Like this inability to admit that the way they've styled Roger, especially the snaps that we've seen so far, he looks like a sexless bearded doofus. And the furthest thing from sexy. And, you know, a lot of times the fandom will criticize, you know, they'll nitpick things, but I feel like in this one, they were completely spot on. I don't understand the styling choices that they have made for this guy who's described in the book as looking like a sexy guyliner pirate. And
I mean, he definitely reads his Oxford professor, like 100%, and that's about it.
That's
right.
Yeah.
What's great about this book is that he's kind of this dichotomy of, you know, he's the sexy pirate, but he's also this kind of super nerd. And I mean, nerds can be hot. Him at the airport and that oversized Kanye West looking coat and all the turtlenecks they want to put him in and the neck beard, like. And then, like, she just doubled down on, you know, how, you know, everyone is just piling on and I've just tried my best. And the one thing I wonder is there no one on that show who ever says, like, that's a bad idea to those two particular people that are in charge?
I don't know.
I bet Diana does.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't seem to have a whole lot of qualms of holding things back. I mean, okay, there's so many issues that are happening with this entire little thing. The first issue is Terry's, that's the costume designer, for those of you who don't know, Terry's online persona, which I actually think is very much like who she really is. I don't think she's like playing a character or trying to like do anything weird. She is who she is online. But the problem with that is I feel like sometimes it doesn't come off in person. I think she is actually amazing. She's like really great, really gracious. But I think sometimes on Twitter, it doesn't come off like that to certain fans. It feels like she's being very disruptive or condescending or I'm going to say kind of dumb. Argumentative to the point of like stupidity sometimes. Like sometimes it looks like she doesn't get what the argument is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then sometimes once she does get it, it's like she just shuts it down. And so I think that's how it comes out. I don't think that's how she really is. This particular one, though, I mean, we have supported her with some of their complaints. Like, remember they complained about the ring?
Mm-hmm.
And I went to town on the fans that were complaining about the ring because I thought that was so stupid for them to care as much as they cared. But this time I do get why they're looking at Roger and going, he's empirically not attractive the way that he's been styled. At the very least, the way we've seen him be styled so far.
Right. And I mean, when you there has to be something compelling in that couple, and the Brianna part of it is not going to be it because she's such a bad actress that right. You have to make Roger super, super compelling. And the way that he looks right now, I just
and that was their complaint, right? And her rebuttal, which isn't wrong, there were two rebuttals. One was we're not out to style them like sex objects. We're not like putting clothes on them purposefully to make them look like sex objects, which okay, I'll believe that because I've seen some of them look really, really bad. So, okay. But the other one was that she does think he's attractive in what he's wearing.
That's why I was saying, does no one else in the room go, you know what? I'm going to raise my hand and say, he's not attractive in what you put him in. And then when she was started to give you examples of people from the 60s, and she's like, do you want him to look like this? And like one of them was Steve McQueen in a suit. And I'm like, hell yes, I want him to look like that.
Yeah.
And then she posted a picture of Ken Cosgrove from Mad Men with this eye patch. And she was like, is this the pirate you want? And I was like, if you're going to pull out anybody from Mad Men with a beard and is a little bit nefarious, like pull out Stan. You know, it just was like, again, are you being dumb? Like, stop showing me these hot men from the 60s and saying, like, is this what you wanted him to be like?
I mean, it's not like anybody's perception of 60s college professors is ugly or staid or staunchy or like paunchy or all the things that he looks like. Like when you think even of that, even if that's all you know about the character, you still think of like a hot elbow patch, you know,
yeah,
nice looking pants kind of guy. I mean, it still doesn't fit for him to be so frumpy. He's frumpy.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is the beard, and that's not really her fault.
Well, why does he have the beard? Roger doesn't have a beard in the beginning of when he's in current day or the 60s, does he? I don't remember him having a beard.
I don't know why he would have a beard. He doesn't seem to be. It doesn't fit the character at all. I mean, in the 60s, for the most part, men would be clean shaven anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it. The beard makes no sense.
Particularly as professors.
Yeah. It would have seemed to be unprofessional.
Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were clean shaven. That is my only
Is that
image.
your sex line? That's your sexy line, Jana. You're like, well, he's no Tolkien.
If Tolkien doesn't have a beard, no professor should.
I'm pretty sure Prince Philip didn't have a beard. I don't know any 60s men. But like, yeah, I mean,
Keith Richards didn't have a beard. Mick Jagger didn't have a beard.
None of the Beatles had a beard at that.
Not when they were jerking off in front of each other. They did not have beards then. Maybe later they had beards.
Mm-hmm.
I agreed with the fan. But I didn't agree with the fans at the way that like a lot of them were coming at her. And that's another problem with this particular fandom is that they have an embarrassment of riches in terms of some of the people that interact with them.
Yes.
And then they have no like couth when it comes to being able to back off. Like we say what we think and what we think is going on with the show and what we want to go on with the show in the future. But this is our lane. We aren't seeking them out and saying, this is what we said about you. I'm not going to like timestamp this particular part of our conversation and put it on Twitter and tag her in it.
No tagging.
Yeah. So I don't get why they're so, and I don't think that it's the fans that are complaining that are doing the tagging. I think it's the tattle fans that tag.
Right.
Either way, it's bad form. If you want to, we should be able to say whatever we want about a show. We should be able to say whatever we want about something and feel however we want, and not feel like we're going to be reprimanded by the creators, which is really honestly like half the creators' fault because they get involved in the conversations, but also other fans who bring them into it, which is just bad form. You should be doing it.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. It works out when it works out. When you're a positive fan and you love everything, then talking to the creators on Twitter and everywhere else is a wonderful thing. But if you have any critiques and you have to measure your words because you're afraid they're going to see it and then you're going to hurt their feelings and then a bunch of fans are going to hop on you, like it's too much. It's made this fandom very, very strange, I think, in a lot of ways. Poor guys.
I mean, it's the fandom that follows the show first.
Yeah. But, Roger looks terrible. He really doesn't look good.
He looks terrible.
So let's talk about the Roger and Brianna parts of this particular part of the book, which are more than what I thought they were. I thought it was just like the little section of section 6 and it ended up being a little bit more. What do we think? What do we think about the proposal, Christmas Eve proposal, and what do we think about the letters and how he found what happened to Jamie and Claire? And what do you guys think? What's their story?
In terms of this section for me, I sped through that so quickly. I just don't care about them.
Yep.
Especially because this section gives me everything that I want from Outlander books, which is Jamie and Claire on the ridge. So I'm just like, I want to get back to like how you make your own shampoo. I don't give a shit about how you're gonna find out and come and decide you have to come back through the stones. I don't care.
My thoughts were the Brianna and Roger sections are the most she could get into like a romance novel. Like she could have those sections from Roger's perspective written with the same pacing and stakes as a romance novel and make me really interested in them. And instead, it's really awkward and choppy. I don't see them fall in love. I don't understand why he asks her to marry him. And maybe it's because I should be putting happen onto this. But even that isn't enough. Like I feel like every book should stand on its own. And when they see each other for the first time in this book, or when she comes to Scotland, she's just in the house. You don't see their reunion. Like all of a sudden he's like saying goodbye to Fiona and Brianna's already in the house. And like you didn't see them meet at the airport or him go pick her up or her come to the manse. And they're just like sifting through boxes again and I guess putting things away in boxes. And it's just, there's no real banter. There's nothing you're not seeing the longing. You know, she writes him letters and he talks about her letters, but we don't see any letters. There's no longing. There's no angst.
Yeah, there's none.
Yeah.
They haven't earned it. I remember the first time I read it, kind of just wanting them to get to the doing it part, because I thought maybe then it would start to feel kind of hot.
Yeah.
Like that one time when they tackled each other or when she's like naked against him in the stairwell, in the hallway, I was like, oh, maybe now it's going to happen. And maybe it's because Roger is pretty upfront right away that he's in love with her. Like we don't really that's the best part about romance novels is it's usually the dude who's lagging and it's just like the revelation of it when he finally figures it out.
Yeah.
Like 3/4 of the way in, it's kind of like, oh, finally.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's even that because I feel like he's not in love with her at the beginning. Like wants to be around her and he wants her to come over but I'm not like, it's like when he asks her to marry him, it's almost like a what?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know this.
Really premature.
Yeah, it really is.
Seems like he was almost like more in love with Claire and like more fascinated by Claire than by Bree.
Yes. At least
and because I feel like saying,
by.
wait, he found her way more fascinating.
Well, they have way more chemistry.
I made a note when I was reading, like Diana skips over the scenes that you really want to see that would like provide a lot of emotion and like what you were talking about. Like we haven't seen them fall in love or be reunited. Like she just skips that stuff. And so she takes away this very powerful emotional experience that you could have with characters. So you just don't feel connected to them at all because you don't see them connect.
Yeah, other than Jamie and Claire.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and even then, sometimes you're missing things that you really want to see. But I mean, I agree totally. Like when he asks her, like when they kind of collide in the hallway and she's like naked or whatever, you do want them to go ahead and have sex, or at least like you want him to get her off or whatever, because you need them to connect. And then when it's like truncated, there's this whole feeling of, okay, maybe they'll earn it in the next scene. Like, you know, you go to a romance novel and they almost do it, you know, they kiss in a closet and then they are separated for whatever reason and they get back, you know, they get back into something. That isn't there. He immediately asks her to marry him and then she's just gone. And it's just a very weird way for it to happen. And then on top of that, when you get back to the 60s and you're with Roger again immediately, you're always in Roger's perspective. And he finds Jamie and Claire in the most haphazard fashion ever. And even that feels like he hasn't earned it. He wasn't looking for them. You haven't read any letters between Bree and Roger that she still wants him to look for them or that she's looking for them. He doesn't even know if she is. There's nothing earned about him finding them at that point. And I get that he is conflicted about whether or not he needs to tell her, but it would be just as good for him to be conflicted about the search. And not that a whole lot of searching for something in the history books would have been super fun to read either, but the correspondence between Bree and Roger about whether or not they want to do that search and why would have been a little bit more compelling than him finding it in a book about songs or whatever it was he did.
Ballads.
On Twitter, Dee makes a really good point. She's basically says, I say the word basically a lot. It's like my literally. That when you're first reading it, you want to get back to Jamie and Claire. You just don't even care about them.
That's true.
And because of the choppy way that they're kind of interspersed, you don't really ever have a time to settle in with them. The one part about the Bree and Roger section I did like, it was when Bree kind of snaps at him, like, well, about her missing her mother. She lost her mom, essentially kind of a death, like knowing that she's alive somewhere. She makes the comment about you don't mourn a time traveler or something. I forget that exactly how she said it. But it was kind of like, it felt very real. Like, this is the emotion that Bree should be feeling, like the loss of her mother. And one thing that bugged me about the show last year that felt so inauthentic and poorly written is when Claire goes through the stones and then she has like 1 minute of like, well, I'm so sad, but now let's celebrate Christmas. You're here. And it just felt so terribly written and fake to me and not, true to how people would act. And Beth, are you getting, I keep seeing you looking off like in the distance. Beth, are you getting distracted by somebody?
Ella's trying to let the dog out.
Which one? Hazel?
No, not Hazel. Lucy.
Lucy.
Can you tell which dog I like better? Is she not coming to the door? Just call her. Anyway, sorry.
That's all right. So, I don't want them to spend a lot of time on the show dealing with Bree being sad because, one, I don't think the actors can pull it off, but I think that it has to kind of be acknowledged in some way. Just if you're just kind of, it seems like a huge part of what that character should be, and I just don't think they dealt with it very well.
No, I agree. It's not something that they've given enough space for, but I don't think that she gives a whole lot of space to it in this either. No. And really, you're getting Roger and Bree in this book so that Roger and Bree can be in the book. Not because she's trying to show them falling in love. And I feel like that is a missed opportunity because
it's good storytelling. Yeah,
I'm invested in whether, like how they fell in love, like the parts where they are connecting. I'm like, talk some more on the bridge. She's unzipping.
Let's follow this lead. Give me more of this.
He unzips his coat and unzips hers so that she can touch him better. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of sweet. And they probably make like a cute little Christmas card on the edge of a bridge, like, this cute little scene that other people are going to be, watching and kind of with stars in their eyes or whatever. And it's, it's over in a blink. And he's yelling at her about, well, you'll have sex with me, but you won't get married. And I'm kind of baffled by her reaction too for a minute. You're like, what is happening? Like, okay, yes, she wants to have sex with you, not marry you. But like, why did you ask her to marry you right now? And like, where are y'all? I mean, it just is so, Dee is 100% right. You're not, the first time you read it, the first time I read it, very little bits of Roger and Bree ever even went into my brain. And that's why, because I just wanted to get back to Jamie and Claire. And now I'd like to sit with them for just a little bit, but you're not given enough. And it's super frustrating.
And I love Roger in the books. I don't care about their relationship. It's easy for me to hate book Brianna just because I find her annoying. But everything that happens to Roger, the stakes of it, like him when he eventually gets kidnapped, or him always being concerned about the parentage of Jimmy, like that stuff always bothered me or upset me. Like I wanted Roger to have his happy ending for Roger. I never wanted him to get back home to Brianna. I just wanted him to live because he was in this shit situation.
I'm sorry, I'm eating this donut. Like,
Is it delicious?
I feel so gross right now. I'm like, you're stuffing my face with a Dunkin' Donut and live.
I'm eating a Kit Kat, so I'm being a little more subtle about it.
I mean, I realize that I'm never subtle about the fact that I eat during these. I eat during all of them. Usually it's like popcorn or something, but this donut is so big in my mouth, you can see it. Oh, man. Well, I don't have anything else to say about them other than she really missed an opportunity to write a good little romance novel inside this big tome that she's writing. And
there's romances in there that I care about, like the Beardsley twins and Lizzie. It can be done.
But you think she would have taken the opportunity to do it with the main, the secondary characters of her world, and it's just not there.
Like if she could write Bree and Roger, like she writes, Lord John and Jamie.
I was going to ask that question because I haven't read Scottish Prisoner, and I would like to know if it is good in romance novel-y.
I don't know.
I read it years ago. I don't even remember their interactions very well. I mean, it was never like romancy.
Well, are any of the Lord John books, are they romancy? I mean, are there like mysteries?
Prisoner, is that real? Oh, I guess it is Lord. I guess but that's more about his friendship with. Oh no, never mind. I'm full of shit. I'm thinking of the story that she wrote for The Difficult Women or whatever. Because isn't that about
virgins?
Older Ian, yeah.
That's Ian and Jamie when they're in France.
Yeah.
I totally shipped Jamie and Ian in that. I wanted them to end up together.
You wanted brother and brother-in-law to get it on?
Well, I mean, it was before they were brother and brother-in-law. It was when they were like 19, and it was so sweet. There's way more chemistry between them than a lot of other relationships in the books.
Jamie has a lot of chemistry with other.
Jamie has chemistry with everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Whether he wants to or not.
Yeah. So we can talk about Lord John since he shows up in the scene in this section. It's a little bit later, but let's talk about it since we're talking about him anyway. When he does show up, of course, we're getting it from Claire's perspective, but I mean, she walks out of the woods with Willie and he and Lord John are just like chummy on a log. And then when Willie falls in the privy, Lord John and Jamie are like talking Greek to each other and cracking each other up. I mean, they're in love with each other. There's love. Everything is so fraught with Claire. Like when Jamie sees Claire for the first time again, and like every time they're together, it's like this fraught reunion. But like he has a reunion with Lord John, and it's just like giggles and tension. It's just they're like in love.
Greek.
Yes. Hold on, y'all talk amongst yourselves about Lord John for just a second. No, but my other daughter did.
I super skimmed that part with Lord John, I'm not going to lie. Not because I didn't care about him, but because I was running out of time to finish reading this. And plus, I don't really care about Willie all that much either. So I was like, ugh.
I don't care about him until he's older. The only notes I had about Lord John was because you guys were talking in the very first In the Waterweeds about how you didn't see Sam Heughan as Jamie. But for this read through, like all I could see was David Barry. Like I'd never really been able to picture Lord John before, but having seen David Barry, he's totally Lord John for me. So that helped.
Yeah, I like that too. Like I guess that's just that's symptomatic of him being really, really good at that character. I hope it lasts. I mean, I don't have any reason to think that it won't last because I thought he was so good. I see David Barry too, and I'm so into it. And what's funny is I don't see David Barry with Sam Heughan laughing and giggling and, having lots of unresolved sexual tension. Mm-hmm. I see David Barry and then my
with
head.
Real Jamie. Jamie.
Yeah. Like my Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Jamie that Athena pops out of the top of my head while I'm reading. Like he just bursts. But I also crack up sometimes at the way Diana puts people like Willie and Lord John into the scene. As soon as Claire sees William, he is a complete brat. He's a total brat to her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sees the slanted eyes, the knife bridge nose, and is like trying to hint. I don't know if it's like she wants us to see Claire's brain, and Claire's brain is not saying it must be William, Jamie's son. So Claire's brain is not going to say that, even though she knows it. So her brain is just processing. Or if she expects the reader to like not make the connection yet till she gives them a little bit more. If it's the latter, if she's expecting the reader to like not get the connections.
As soon as she said slanted blue eyes, I was like, "Oh, Willie."
Yeah, like
give us some credit, Diana.
Like that's what I'm curious. Like I'm curious if which it is. Is it that she's just she's giving it to us the way Claire processes it, which is weird, or if she expects the reader to not know right away, and she's giving us clues. Because there's other places where she does this little like foreshadowing thing, where somebody's talking about something, or Claire sees something, but it's not wholly there or whatever, and it's super obvious, and you just want to crack up. I think she thinks that we don't get it.
It's suspenseful, she thinks. She's like dragging it out a little bit. So we're like,
about to drop a bombshell, but we see it coming.
I mean, I don't need 6 paragraphs on this brat that you're talking to for you to, for you to tell me.
That's my Mr.
Lord That's John. Your Lord John? Did you just have that handy? You have a little scrapbook down there?
Is that always there? Is that always
I work in the paper and printing industry, so I am always one to hit print.
I'm gonna have to ask you later how I can get my printer to print some labels that I needed to print some labels. It's not working.
Oh, all right. I'll help you.
Ma'am. Thank you. But Willie is such a brat. I want to kill him. Like I want those leeches to just leech the blood out of him and leave him for dead. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I wish she had done is she never makes Willie really ever endearing. Like he was endearing when Jamie left him and he was kind of crying and weeping. But after that, she never gives you a reason to like him.
Is that because you get him from Claire's POV?
It could be. But you would think that even Claire can have a great interaction with somebody that she doesn't like. She does it with Lord John. Yeah. Like I think that they have some good interactions to where even through Claire's point of view, you can see that she genuinely kind of likes him, or that he's a good person beyond how Claire views him.
Yeah, and then she spends all this time like fixing Willie up and like plaiting his hair and giving him a ribbon, and she's saying that she feels kind of a little proprietary towards him, and then he falls into a big pile of shit. So it's like even when Claire's feeling motherly or at least gracious towards him, Diana's like, he ain't worth it. We're gonna like throw him down a hole. She literally throws him down.
I think that Claire she genuinely cares for people and she's very practical. I never really think of her as motherly at all. Like she will get shit done that's in your best interest, but
she's not sentimental at all.
It's weird.
What, you don't agree?
I guess no, I agree. I think it's a super odd choice for you. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a weird way for her to be. To not be sentimental, but to also be a time traveler who leaves, your own time and your child to go be with a man that you were married to for 3 years. I mean,
yeah, I don't get that. It's as a mother.
Yeah.
I love my husband, but I would take a bullet for my kids before I would take one for him.
Did you say husbands plural?
That's my business, Amy. No, just one.
I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I've never got that about Claire. I'm like, how do you leave even if it's an adult, like, how do you leave your child?
Okay, but if she's not sentimental, then that's how she can leave Bree, right? If that's not, she's not particularly maternal, she's not particularly sentimental, like even her maternal instincts are more based on science, right? Than they are, sentimentality. So if you're not a sentimental person, then it doesn't seem to follow that you would also be the kind of person who would risk life and limb and hot baths to go back in time 200 years on the off chance that you'll be able to find your lover from 2 decades ago. Yes. That seems like the ultimate sentimental move for someone who in all other circumstances doesn't have a sentimental bone in her body. That's why it's an odd choice.
Yeah.
She should be more sentimental because she did this hugely, grand gesture type
life-threatening grand gesture.
Right.
And by being sentimental, she should also be thinking about Bree more or feeling guilt. I would almost accept it if she had gone back in time and then immediately when she got there realized because sometimes you can get caught up in something, and make this choice. I mean, and then oh shit, what have I done?
She seems to shove thoughts of Bree down. She just won't admit that she doesn't like to admit that she misses Bree.
I think she does have that moment in Voyager. There's a moment in Voyager where I don't remember where it is. I think it might be after the revelation of Leary. Where she breaks down and she's like, what have I done? Why did I come back here to him and leave my daughter?
But that's because it wasn't as soon as she lost her daughter. It was because she thought that she had lost Jamie. She had gotten him. So it seems extra selfish. Not on its own, I've lost my daughter. Oh, I made this choice and now this man is not available to me. Now I feel bad.
Yeah, I think that it fits in with what you were saying earlier, that she got caught up in what she was doing. Mm-hmm. So the going back in time and finding him and then being with him again, that's all the getting caught up in the grand thing that she's doing. And then there's the drop of, oh shit, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Which was brought on by the reality of his actual circumstances. And so that's when she's like, I left my kid for this. Holy shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the mom who goes off to leaves for Cleveland or whatever and then she just leaves her kids for 2 weeks because she's just caught up in, I don't know, opioid addiction or something. And then
that'd be the only reason to go to Cleveland.
Right.
Addiction.
And
no offense, Cleveland.
Then there's nothing for her. Then there's, she hits a wall and that's when she's like, what have I done? And I think that's what happens. That part makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I just think that in general, she would have been a more open-hearted, warm-hearted, connection-building type person because of what she has with Jamie and what that allowed her to be able to do.
Or even if she's not feeling it, be self-aware enough to recognize it. I should care for this child. He's here of no fault of his own. I can't but I'm insanely jealous. We feel jealousy a lot of times about things that we know we shouldn't or we should know better. Yeah. Maybe sometimes it's Claire's lack of self-reflection.
Maybe. I haven't read anything yet that makes me feel like she's being unfair to Willie yet. She's a little unjust in her thought. I haven't really read anything yet that's just blatant, she's letting her jealousy get the better of her at any point. Not even with Marsley or any, obviously with Willie, the jealousy is a little bit.
Willie's a brat and she treats him like a brat, which she's completely allowed.
And she treats Marsley really well and her children really well too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is another thing that just pops up out of nowhere that would have been.
Oh, they're on their way from Jamaica?
They're not.
Yeah, they are.
They're there.
Show up with baby Jermaine.
all of a sudden there, and they're not actually there on the page. She just tells us they're there. Like, it's a classic, you told us, you didn't show us. Like, that's a classic bad way to do things. But at the same time, she went on and on and on pages about everything that they had in the cabin, every piece of pottery, every nook and cranny, every branch that was covering this. And we went, I mean, it was, here's what I realized as I was reading like these early chapters in part 7. This, what is it? It's not the Strawberry Fields. It's on the mountain or whatever. I'm reading these early chapters and I'm like, this is literally like, okay, when you do classical education, which is what we've been doing with my kids for years, you read a lot of primary history sources, which means you read the actual diaries, the actual letters of these people. You know, once you get into where you can have primary sources, you read them. That's part of classical education. I have read a shit ton of like colonial diaries, okay, so that I can decide which ones I think, oh, this sheet of paper will be interesting for my kids to read and is, you know, helpful. It reads like a lady's diary from 1727 that is so chock full of sundries, miscellaneous thoughts, you know, just.
Day 1, I saw a cougar. Day 2, we blessed the hearth.
Yeah, you're high. This is the best part of the book. I live for this shit.
The list of things that they own.
I want to know what Myers brought back with them, and I do like this part because Claire admits that there's like 2 tools that she doesn't know, and she has to kind of describe them. And I was like, ooh, Claire doesn't know something. But this is the stuff that I live for. I'm like, I want to know how you made a shingle.
Okay, I'm sitting there going,
I want to see the reunion with Fergus and Marsali and Jermaine.
Yes.
But I didn't get that.
All right, so she just called it is it Marsali? Because that's what I say. Or is it Marsley?
I think it's Marsley.
Again, another name I don't know.
Marsali is how you would say it.
I cannot believe you're into all of the various and sundry things that they use in their new cabin.
This is why I loved this section, and I know that mostly Hangoutlander and everything is me bitching and moaning, but this is like my favorite part of the book. Of just Jamie and Claire on the ridge making shit and figuring out how to build a house, and they meet the pig for the first time. And
do you know how many times she mentions where the pig is and what it's doing? We know exactly how many animals they have.
She gets a feather bed.
I am aghast. It's not at all interesting. It's just, it is exact what it, and the thing is, and I promise you, this is exactly what it's like. And this is why she's never wanted fan fiction of her books written before, because it's a colonial diary and fan fiction. And that's it. Those two things married together.
The fan fiction of her own characters.
Exactly. Because fan fiction is nothing except your favorite characters.
Yes, I completely agree.
Having an event, and then that event not really doing anything. It's just one chapter of them doing something, and then the next chapter is them doing something else. Yeah. And in the 3/4 of the way through every chapter, they have hot sex, and then it's all resolved, and then it just moves on to the next one.
I do not disagree with you at all. So what she needs to do is rewrite this and get rid of the whole like Farquaad Campbell or whatever, and the Murchison guy who's all pissed off, and like that stuff, that plot, I don't care about. I just really want to know how she makes her own shampoo.
I, on the other hand, would rather read this in fan fiction form and have the canon of the book have a plot thread that makes sense and matters.
No, I totally agree with you.
And that you can invest in. Like, I can't invest in like the types of different breads Claire makes, or what wildlife she encounters on the ridge. Like, I don't invest in that. There's no main plot.
Like, okay, I went through, I went through, like, I just wanted to see really quickly, like, what the summaries were of each chapter before we read it. And I was looking through it, and legitimately, somebody has written out in, like, one of the little book club things, little bullet points of what actually happens in each chapter. There's not a single chapter in all of this section, and we read, 12 that had more than 4 bullet points. So, I mean, like, there's a chapter where Jamie tries to school Ian while they build the cabin, and the Indians come visit Claire, and the old lady tells her that she had a dream about her. That's all that happens in a whole
weird
chapter.
Prophecy,
right?
About Claire having white hair.
There's a chapter where Roger finds the death notice. That's all that happens in an entire chapter. Like, there's a whole chapter where Roger notices a change in Brianna's tone of her letters. That's it.
End of scene.
No actual letter, no actual like thought, nothing going anywhere. Just he notices that there's been a tone change. Okay, it's ridiculous.
No, I completely agree with you on all those points. But you don't go to war with the book you want. You go to war with the book you have. And I don't think that these books should have been written past book 3. I think there was a trilogy wrapped up. But then I kept buying them and kept reading them because I wanted to spend time with Jamie and Claire on the ridge.
Yeah.
No one was on the CompuServe forum giving me fan fiction, so I just bought it in the forms of Drums of Volume.
I mean, I do enjoy the daily the daily like look into their life. I do actually enjoy that. But when I enjoy it, it's things like when they're lying in bed and discussing Brianna and like rubbing each other.
Yeah.
Like, and not for the titillation aspect, but just because it informs the character a little bit more. It's interesting. I think that the anachronisms that Jamie has to deal with, like where he's learning about like, what's a garbage man, what's a ballerina? And he kind of giggles at the idea that there's a dancer that dances on her toes. Like, those things are incredibly interesting, and they inform the character, and they make me smile, and they feel really fun. And I realize that I probably should just pick up your regular run-of-the-mill time-traveling romance to enjoy them a little bit more, because that's probably what it is, and then I'll have the tension and the pacing that I enjoy. But I want to enjoy it with Jamie Fraser, and it's frustrating when, instead I'm reading really lengthy descriptions of how they bank their fire, or smoot their fire, or whatever they call it. I don't care.
Well, I like that she's their primary care physician. She gets paid in ham. I just think that's delightful.
Oh my gosh. Who pays her in ham?
That was when she talks about how she kind of has patients that come, and then she's starting to collect things that people pay her. They don't have money, so like one person paid her in a ham.
Mm-hmm. Or a sack of barley. The Muellers paid her in a sack of barley.
When I read it, it's Mueller, but in my mind now, it's Mueller because of Robert Mueller.
Yeah. Which is interesting to me. The whole time I'm thinking about Robert Mueller. Every time I see it, I think about Robert Mueller.
Like, I like hearing about the Moravians in Salem because my mother is from Winston-Salem, and I remember every Christmas and Easter the Moravians would come out. They make very good sugar cake.
I'm trying to think of a scene that I really liked that I think was probably not necessary but really warmed my heart. And I want to say, because a bunch of people on Twitter are talking about the things that they like. Like Jamie said that she thinks that the two of them camping and fishing is sweet. Oh, I guess she's talking about Willie. But Dee said that she's with you. She loves Claire and Jamie on the ridge. She's here for that boring homie shiz. And I get it. I like the part where he has thrown his back out and she goes to find him.
I love that part.
And Jana doesn't.
I made a lot of notes about all the different like injuries and illnesses that Jamie and Claire still manage to hump in, and that was one of them. Like, you're in a snowstorm and Jamie's back is out, but she still rides him to Pleasure Town.
With Ian watching, right?
Yeah.
Ian watching.
I still think that one's one of my favorites.
I
was okay with that one, and then they just kept having sex in more and more like awkward, like injury-prone situations, and then it got ridiculous.
Yeah, when she was like smeared in camphor, that one I was kind of like. Mm-hmm. But she was also drunk, and so I have been in way worse situations, like physically, and been like, but had too much to drink and been like, we're doing this. This is
She
happening.
has one of the best quotes in that scene that we should all reuse, but probably not in the Me Too world. But, when he's like, oh, you're worse for the drink. And she's like, I'm better for it.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, we always have these things that we want the show to do because it's in the book. I mean, Diana, this is what I like about the show, is that Diana will give them something so perfect, and then they choose not to use it, or they just screw it up. If they don't have the conversation of her explaining to him once again that you can't get sick from wearing a wet shirt, like all night long, you're not going to get cold. And then he says, oh, I know, you're wee germs or whatever. Like, I just want to hear Sam Heughan say the word germs on TV.
But not in his porn star voice.
What's his porn star voice?
Where he does that. Where are you looking at? Where are you going? Where's your honey pot? I hate it.
Speaking of the ruptured back scene, there's a line where they're like, he's injured, like in the snowstorm. She finds him and he says her nipples are hard as spring cherries.
I wrote that down.
Isn't that exactly from that one episode from season 3 where like it's a love scene and he says it, but Beth, you emphasize, he's like, why is he saying it in this porn star voice? Like, that ruins it.
I'm sure he did ruin it. I don't remember it exactly, but he talks about her nipples being like cherries in the turtle soup chapter, which is probably where it is in the show as well. Mm-hmm. And and it's the thing is Jamie's kind of like irritated that he's
so like matter of fact. I just read him as very matter of fact.
Yes, he's like should be like kind of way more dry and just be like, well, your nipples are staring at me as big as cherries. He should be more irritated that he's like turned on, but she's sick and he wants to do the right thing and he can't. But Sam is out here being super gross with like it's grody and embarrassing. And I'm thinking about it right now.
I want to rub some Vicks Vapor Rub.
I've never had sex with Vicks Vapor on his face. Who can even think with your nostrils burning? Who can do that?
No.
Camphor and peppermint.
Maybe they liked it because apparently how funky they were.
I don't know. I feel like if my eyes are watering and my nose is burning, I don't think I'm gonna be getting it on.
For someone who talks about smells, like Diana never seems to talk about like dick smells or.
Yeah, she doesn't really talk about that.
I want to know what Jamie's dick smell is.
Well, okay, that is one thing that she's terrible at that because most romance novels, most novels that have sex in them, they'll mention like the smell of sex being in the room.
Musk.
Post coitus.
Yeah.
She never does that.
You watch Sharp Objects,
right? She mentions like pretty much every other smell.
I know.
The smell of sex. It is a weird omission.
It's a very weird omission. Is it just overpowered by all the other bodily smells
smells funky. Well, it was like in Sharp Objects, which I have not watched the last episode, so no one spoil it for me. But
what? How have you not watched it yet?
Because I'm trying to watch it with Dave, and he falls asleep, and we're watching it in like 10-minute increments.
I am aghast again.
So, but when that episode where her mother is like, you smell right.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the smell of sex is something that she should have been mentioning. She should have mentioned 100 times by now.
Yes.
They should have walked in a room and be like, oh, it smells like jizz in here. I mean, they should know.
Someone should have pointed it out, either young Ian or Duncan.
Yeah, or like even
someone would have noticed.
Even when Jamie is in Ardsmere, and she makes a point of talking about the men and their chains clanking together and stuff when they're diddling themselves, but Jamie never mentions like the musk, the jizz musk in the air. That seems like that would have been something he would have commented on.
That's Tom Ford's newest fragrance for winter. Jizz musk. Morgan wants us to talk about the Indian vision. We should talk about that. I feel like it's big.
There's a lot of unnecessary, crazy
Why does she have to lose her shoes? Like, why do I keep feeling like my shoes are missing? Like, what?
I want to know how the shoes fit in Jamie's sporran. Like, he pulls them out of his sporran.
I'm assuming his sporran is as big as my fiddle leaf figs potted plant base.
That's gotta be the biggest sporran known to man to fit a pair of shoes.
Jamie's sporran is as big as Myers' balls.
Hernia. Oh, is he big balls too?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't remember.
Maybe. There's a mosquito in here. Oh, great. Now I'm totally distracted for the rest of the night. Worried it's going to get me. But no, I don't know how that happens either. Is he supposed to be a time traveler? Is he the owner of the skull?
I don't think that you ever know or it's ever revealed. So I don't know.
I feel like you find out something about him. I don't know if it's in this book or a later book, but I know you find out something about him. But I don't think it ever explains how her shoes get back to the ridge.
Someone walked in them. Someone walked in them.
Is that like?
Well, I was reading and I was like, why can she not find her shoes? Like,
well,
how simple is she that she can't find her shoes? And then, but I don't remember how that was explained.
Okay, so there's a couple of there's several different things that happen in this section that I didn't read that closely, but that I can remember off the top of my head that are like the mystical aspects of this series.
The
great grandmother comes in with a gem and says that she dreamed of Claire on the night that was it the same night that something happened? I can't remember. But she dreamed, it was the night of the bear attack, maybe. I don't remember. But anyway, she had a dream about Claire. She's got the gem in her amulet. She knew about her, knew about her curls and all this kind of stuff. And then there's the opal that she finds with the
skull.
Yep.
With the skull. The skull is a time traveler skull, which, does she ever say why? I forget that
It's not until later when she's really kind of looking at the skull, and it's like a little time has passed, and she was in the hole, maybe because Jamie forces her to go to sleep. So then she wakes up and she's looking at the skull, and then it's like, oh,
yeah. So there's that aspect of it, and then she sees the ghost, or what she assumes is a ghost. The shoes end up at the door. And Jamie also has this vision of Bree and her birthmark.
Yes.
Oh, I kissed her there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, these aspects of it, especially like all kind of running on top of each other, make you feel like you're headed towards something, some kind of collision.
There's never payoff.
Time traveling, dreamscape, danger, like are so many, shamans, etc., who are aware of her. And Jamie is also able to kind of like trip his way into dreams. She's able to see Jamie in her dreams of Brianna. She sees Jamie in a dream being the one to kiss Brianna's head, that's fine because she was there for all of those things. That's not the same thing as something being super mystical. But you think that they're going to like trip their way into some sort of like web of mysticism that amounts to something, and it just feels like it never does. I think at the end of this, the great grandmother dies of measles, right? I didn't read all the way through.
No, she gets scalped by
Oh, that's right, because he remember the revenge.
He scalps her and Gabrielle and Gabrielle's mom. So that was her prophecy, like, because Muller's like daughter and grandbaby died of measles, and so in revenge he went and he stumbled upon I can't pronounce her name.
I can't pronounce her name either, but like
they all got scalped.
Okay, that's right. This makes me crazy because that woman prophesied that Claire was going to have that the deaths were going to come to Claire or whatever she said, right? And Claire's like all worried about her prophecy. Like,
the gods bring the sickness, it's not your fault. So Muller's daughter died of measles, and so he killed the Indian women in revenge. So somehow that was supposed to be all tied up.
It is not tied up for this woman to be perfectly okay and give Claire absolution months and months, or however long, before and she's known about not only her own death, but the death of her daughter and granddaughter at the hand of some vengeful white man. That's crazy.
Well, my theory has always been that she wrote the first book not really expecting to write the rest of them, and seeing Jamie, when Frank sees Jamie, that was just like a throwaway. That was just her adding some intrigue to what she was writing. There was never really any plan to really have that be a thing like in later books. Like it doesn't like it's kind of like a plan. Like never really naturally evolved.
Right. And she doesn't have really like a whole good plan for what that means. I mean, she probably does at this point, but like.
Right. But you're right. Like the mysticism, there's this whole thing about, she's in this hole. It's a really long scene. She's kind of playing up the spookiness of it. And then nothing ever really happens with it.
Yeah. I mean, it could have actually.
Like 1,000 pages later when you just don't care anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the scene like in season 2 or 3 where like Claire sees Gaelus's bones and then like 10 episodes later find out like the correlation and you just don't care or remember
that's the thing is there's not any kind of immediacy to it. And even this has more immediacy. It happens within a 10 chapter span. It's not from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, but at the same time, what a crappy way to introduce any type of mysticism for her to meet these characters that meet a very gruesome, very horrible end because of her. But they came in just to give Claire absolution for what's about to happen. That is, when we talk about how she treats
what a terrible use of Native American characters.
Right. We talk about the way that she treats characters that are not white in lots of different ways. And this is one of the ways that she exploits them for narrative purposes that they don't even really pay off narratively. They're just there to give Claire some sort of, moment, like this like moment of like, oh my gosh, poor me. I can't believe I had to know this ahead of time.
Right.
To that end, we had a really great comment from last week that I wanted to read in its entirety. It was on our YouTube, and Amy and I were talking about Pollyann, the slave woman who ran away not last week, but the last in the Waterweeds. And Jametta wrote on our YouTube, and I'm going to read it just in its entirety because it was a dope comment and it was really good and I just want to read it. So she says, I'd like to thank Amy for voicing my concerns regarding the description of Pollyann. Really, I thought perhaps I was being oversensitive. So here's my impression. DG's description reminds me of the racist stereotypes prevalent during Jim Crow, as Amy referenced when bringing up the racist depiction of Serena Williams by the Australian artist. DG describes Pollyan's resemblance to a fertility idol, but what she wrote actually resembled the mammy trope, and that's what I see every time I read that chapter. Then at the end, she turns Pollyann into the Jezebel trope. Also, she virtually renders Pollyann mute and essentially voiceless. She isn't able to communicate her opinions, her desires, her anger, nothing. She's mute and dependent on these heroic white characters to save her. It disappointed me because all of DG's other ethnic characters are capable of communication. Jamie, at least, and Claire at times are able to figure out how to communicate with mostly everyone, but not the African characters. With those, they seldom do. I recall Ishmael and Joe, and they always know what's best for them, better than the African characters themselves. The indigenous characters get to have personalities. The African characters seldom do. And when they do, it's always one-dimensional and stereotypical. It's a major flaw in DG's writing, and I'm hoping this story, as well as the lynching, is left out of the show altogether or better handled. Thanks for reading. Jametta, thank you for that comment. You're 100% right.
And she didn't even mention Willoughby.
Yeah, I mean, this book, is there even, I don't know where Willoughby is, but like.
He's mentioned briefly.
Okay. I mean, I really think that this grandmother character whose name I can't pronounce and I can't remember at this point, and that's my fault, is similar in that she's also essentially voiceless. They don't really communicate. Someone is translating for her at least. So Jametta is 100% right about that. At the very least, this character has a translator, whereas Pollyann doesn't. This woman's got, just 2 yellow teeth in the front of her face, and, has put on her best finery, but still it's like, not enough, and all those kinds of things. And then is essentially brutally murdered for Claire's, epiphanous benefit.
A plot device.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, really pitiful. Especially when it would even be different if the mysticism aspect or the time traveling aspect or the shaman aspect of the books had a greater purpose than just Claire's own, jollies or whatever. There's just not a lot going on with it.
It's just very much that whole magical Negro trope that, I don't think would fly today. If it was written today, it would definitely get a lot more pushback. I don't know when this book was written, but
it was like 96, 97.
Yeah. And it's just, you can't, you can, but when you are just having characters that are not white and they just kind of are there to help you in your journey along the way, and you don't give them their own story or agency, it's just, it's just been done to death. So it needs more of it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like I would feel better if this character had hadn't necessarily just given Claire a pass for what was going to happen. So I don't really know how else for that to happen. But it's one of those things that, again, the way the narrative is written, she's running around the countryside, birthing babies and helping people with their ailments or whatever. And you forget that the narrative even really takes you into the mysticism thing until later. And so it's just a lot of weird choices with regards to that I wish were different. I wish the mysticism was played up to be something that leads them into more peril. But it's always peril for someone else and not for them in that way. The natural world gives them plenty of peril, but
isn't there enough mysticism with the time travel itself? She brings up, what's his name, the French dude,
Raymond.
Yeah. And maybe reminding you that, he himself might have been a time traveler. I don't think she mentions that in this part, but, how much mysticism does a book need?
That's what I'm saying. It shouldn't have any, because it's really not a part of their world. There isn't any consequence for any of it going on. Now granted, when they find the skull and Jamie goes, oh, so this means there must be stones nearby. Even that doesn't make any sense. That's not necessarily true. She came through some stones that weren't in America. Just because there's another traveler doesn't mean that that's the case.
If you want your magic to be believable, then everything can't be magic.
Right. So can Jamie walk through dreams? Can she see ghosts? Can ghosts become corporal and, pick up her shoes and walk in them and bring them somewhere? Or did somebody just, find her shoes but not find her? What is going on? Yeah. And at the same time, it needs to inform the story and inform the plot in ways that are interesting. And it doesn't.
I'm relevant. It's so not relevant. None of it is.
Right.
So Dee says there are some hints of Jamie seeing other things later in books. Yes, there are. But again, I feel like that wasn't really the intention for him to be that, for that kind of level of magic to really happen. And she was stuck with it, and now she's kind of trying to write her way out of it.
Yeah.
And when you read if it is resolved, it's going to be resolved in 10 years or 15 years when she finishes the series. And none of it is going to matter.
Well, I stopped. I'm not reading anymore. I'm done.
I think that there's some people who enjoy that really lengthy, they're going to love the payoff and it's going to be good for them, and that's fine. I like for each book to be able to stand on its own two legs and feel like a cohesive thing on its own, even when it's pulled into a series. And or at the very least, I want the tidbits to be that are teasing me out to something that's bigger, to be something that I've got to go back and reread. That doesn't, I need to know more about it. And sometimes when you read other series that do the same thing, and I talk about the Lumiere Chronicles all the time by Melina Marchetta because they're amazing fantasy novels. And magic aspect isn't everything in those books. They're a lot like this, where it's about home and family and where you come from, and but it's also about like a curse on a land and people being like exiled from their homeland and trying to get back, but they can't because of this like curse. And that curse informs everything about that series in ways that you never expected. And there's bastards, and there's, there's princesses, and there's, mages and oracles and all kinds of different like people who, it's not high fantasy, so there's not a ton of that, but there's all kinds of people. But then how they intersect, when you find out how they intersect in the very last novel, it is explosive. It's not, coincidental, and it's not like anybody showed up on the page just to get one character from this place to another, or to like make them think there's a prophecy somewhere later on. Like all of it is interconnected, and you care about every single relationship between every character, not just romantic, in all kinds of amazing ways, because it was just thought of ahead of time in ways that made sense. The Fever series does the same thing. Karen Marie Moning is a genius at what those books are in some ways so silly, but at the same time, you read those first 5 novels and they are so well crafted in terms of the magic and where things are going and what's going on. And every time I read magic at this one, I'm like, we're never going to see this guy
there's
again.
There's no grander purpose.
Right.
Like, it's just kind of thrown in willy-nilly.
Yeah.
And it's not supposed to make sense because there's no grander purpose.
Yeah. Like, oh, they got an opal, and that girl has a sapphire, which I'm sure they're going to end up needing later on because somehow they need gems. Like, they found them, like, so if they need to travel, they can, that's all that it means.
Yeah. And then she could have gotten those things without having the magical native walk past her.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. Again, at the end of every Waterweeds, we come down to, guys, here's another set of books you should really read. These books I really, really, really like. I'm trying to look at some of the comments, but Jamie, or no, this is Mystery Redhead, Cool Story Meredith put this as Jamie's Sporin. Can y'all see this picture?
It's so funny. The Martha Stewart bag.
Like Martha Stewart bag. It's gigantic. Oh man, so big. I bet it is that big. I always think it's big for some reason. Anyway, anything else you guys want to say about this section? Because we've been talking for too long.
Vaccinate your children.
Yes, please vaccinate. It's very important. Measles has been eradicated if you vaccinate.
Yep. I love your shirt, by the way.
Mine?
Yeah.
Man.
It's fun.
It's a Hawaiian shirt and it's a little bit of a crop top. So when I wear it, I'm really...
Hey, girl.
On midriff. I wore this when I canvassed for Phil Bredesen. Yay!
Nice. I love it.
We're bringing it back to voting every time, too. I've mentioned Phil Bredesen on every In the Waterweeds. I mentioned other book series you guys need to be reading. It's a good time. By the time Outlander comes out, season 4, November the 6th will be.
Is that when it is?
I think it comes out on the 4th.
It comes out on the 4th.
Yeah. So Outlander's going to come out, and then we're all going to go vote. And then
Blue Wave!
Yeah. And then we'll all either be too sad to keep doing Hangoutlander, or maybe, just maybe.
See, this is why
riding the Blue Wave into Hangoutlander.
We might Terry might not like our thoughts about the styling of Roger, but she has to like the fact that we want there to be a blue wave.
Yes, I think she's down with the kids on that one.
Yep.
Thankfully. Okay. So
All right.
here's the business time. Not the good business time, but like what we're going to be talking about. We've got another In the Waterweeds coming up next Monday. I wrote it down on my calendar. So because 2 ones ago we were late. And so we were supposed to do this In the Waterweeds last week, but it had only been a week. So I was like, no, I haven't read it yet. We're going to do it next week. So now we're still a week behind. So the actual schedule is October the 1st.
Can we do it on Tuesday instead?
Maybe.
Okay.
And I think Nikki is joining us. We'll have to ask if she's free.
All right.
So anyway, it's next week and it's parts 8 and 9, I believe. Although part 8 looks big and I just don't like all of these chapters. It's too many to talk about. So we'll see. Yeah, it's probably 8 and 9. But that's a lot. So anyway, next week, you guys, I will forget and I probably won't be here. Let's just be real. We'll see. Hopefully we'll get it done before Outlander season 4 comes out, because right after that, right after October the 1st, we'll be at New York Comic Con. So if you're going to be at New York Comic Con for Outlander or for all the other cool stuff that's going to be there, come find us. Me and Becca will be there, and Lorena. And it's going to be a great time. I love New York Comic Con. It's might be my favorite con of the cons.
Bold.
Anyway, I hope a bunch of you are going to be there. We might have a little like dinner or tea and meet up for anybody that's going to be there. So yay,
My
Comic Con.
daughter is going to her first Comic Con. She's going to the Rhode Island Comic Con.
Yay.
Who is going to be at Rhode Island Comic Con?
Well, she's very into it, and I know that seems weird because she's 9, but that's whatever. She likes scary, scary things, and Tim Curry is going to be there. So
That's awesome.
yes, her sister's going to take her, and the best part is we're going to drag brunch before she goes, so she's going to have an entire day of delights.
That's a lot of cosplay.
Yes,
a lot of
she's
wins.
going to be cosplaying it. She's dressed as some anime character from Doki Doki Woki Woki. I don't know, but
Yay, that's amazing. I can't wait.
Ruby.
I can't wait to see the pictures. She's going to have such a good time. And she's such a great little artist. Amy's daughter is like so good. She's going to blow us all away doing sequential art one day. It's going to be awesome.
I'm blown away by your Instagram posts.
Oh, thank you. She's going
They're
to.
so good.
Scholastic needs to drop her a contract right now.
Yes.
Some graphic novels.
Absolutely. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on In the Waterweeds, especially those of you who talk to us on Twitter. We love you guys, and we will see you next week and then at Comic-Con. Bye.